welcome to the first webinar in this 2024 series hosted by the Irish Centre for Diversity. Thanks for joining and we hope you enjoy the series. To self-describe myself, I am a proud disabled white man in my early 30s from rural County Longford. I have brown hair and I'm wearing a burgundy shirt this morning and I'm sitting in my powered wheelchair with a backdrop behind me saying Irish Centre for Diversity. Recently, as you all know, we held the National Diversity and Inclusion Awards 2024 to recognise and celebrate the valuable work being done to progress D&I in Ireland. This webinar series has been devised to share insights and experience so that any learnings can be applied to your organisation or to help with entering the next awards cycle. Today's session focuses on the category of Advancing Disability Equality Award, and our proud sponsor is AON. AON has shared a video clip highlighting the work they do and that they are doing with D&I, and this can be found on the NDIA website. I'll shortly pass you over to the award sponsor, who will be in conversation with some of the finalists, and we will end with the award winner today. We'll have it all wrapped up, I promise, within the hour, or at least that's the plan. And just to say, before we begin, we are joined by Vanessa Keaton, our ISL interpreter. The session will be recorded and will be available on the Irish Centre for Diversity website. Everyone is muted except the panel. We'd encourage everyone to please share comments in the chat function, and we'd love to hear which organisations you're joining us from this morning. We don't have time for Q&A today. However, feel free to post them in the chat function and we will share the answers with you at a later date. Before we start, it's important to mention that AON, like the other sponsors and Irish Centre for Diversity, had no part in the judging process and we couldn't enter the awards themselves. Now, enough from me, and without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce our host for today's session, Oisin O'Gogain, Chief People Officer with AON, who will lead the conversation. Thank you. Oisin, over to you.
Thanks, James, and good morning to everybody. As a starting point to self-describe, I'm a white Irish male in my mid to late 30s. I won't specify. I am sitting in an AON office today. I have brown hair. I'm wearing dark glasses, a white shirt, and a navy blazer. It's a real privilege to be here today, and as James mentioned, AON as sponsor of this category does not participate in the awards itself. So like many of you, I'm also going to avail of the opportunity to hear about many of the finalists and the reasons for which they are finalists in this great category. Maybe just to say a little bit about the organization that I work with. So AON's probably known by most as a former sponsor of Man United, but we do quite a few things. So we are a firm of about 50,000 people who operate globally in the area of consulting. So we advise on all risks related to how organizations run. And we also have a pretty material human capital wing where we advise on how we run talent in businesses. So it's a really fascinating company and a real privilege for me to hold the role of Chief People Officer, which effectively means I'm involved in all things talent across all our firm. But one thing that is very close to my heart and also a huge passion for us all at AON is the area of equity, diversity, and inclusion. We have a very firm belief you must design for diversity, and that is something that we're really active in. It's a real privilege to also have been accredited for a second time as a gold sponsor with the investors at Irish Centre for Diversity. And, that's an accolade we hold very tightly and understand is something that we need to continue to build upon. So opportunities like today to hear from others are really valuable for us all. So we have quite a bit to get through this morning. I'm reading through my score here of all the different and fascinating panelists that we're going to talk to. But before we introduce and meet some of those panelists, I just thought I'd take a moment to make reference to one of the finalists, South Dublin County Council, who unfortunately cannot be with us today. Their nomination was originally prepared by Selena Bonney, who attended the interview also. And very sadly, Selena passed away before the awards. I just wanted to, share and offer our condolences with Selena's family, friends, and her colleagues in South Dublin County Council. The judges who reviewed the submission were really impressed by the strides the council was making for both colleagues and the public. We really hope that's something that is continued on from, but just wanted to take an opportunity to recognise all those in Dublin South County Council, in particular Selena. So thank you for that. What I'm going to do now is introduce some of these lovely faces who are on video with us today. And the first of those is Shane Mulcrone. Shane, you work with the Delata Hotel Group, and your organisation was highly commended by the judges. I'm wondering, Shane, if you'd maybe like to introduce yourself as a starting point, and then I'll guide us from there.
Perfect. Thanks, Oisin. Good morning, everyone. So, yeah, my name is Shane Mulcrone, and I am the Group Social Impact Manager with Delata Hotel Group. And to kind of self-describe, I'm a white male in my mid-30s with dark but very quickly going grey hair. And I'm wearing a white shirt with a pink tie, and I have a background with Delata Hotel Group on it.
Thanks very much, Shane. So your submission, again, really enjoyed by the judges. They were hugely impressed by a partnership that Delata Hotel Group have with Down Syndrome Ireland. I know you piloted this, and it's your story to tell. So I'm wondering if you could just tell us about any takeaways that you've had from that pilot, and what this opportunity might actually materialize into, and what initiative like this really represents for you as a firm.
Absolutely. Thanks, Oisin. And if I suppose before I dive into the partnership, just to give a bit of context for ourselves as well. So obviously we are a hotel group, and we've 53 hotels across Ireland, the UK, and continental Europe. But with 32 of those hotels being in Ireland, as we are an Irish company that is growing. And we are, I suppose, within Ireland, the largest hotel group. So we kind of nearly always see ourselves as leaders in certain spaces. And like I started my role in terms of social impact manager 2.5 years ago. And it was a new role that was brought on stream, I suppose, too, with the ever increasing focus, and from the company's point of view, they wanted a resource to be able to support initiatives like this. And really, I suppose when I came on board with the company, the one thing that's very evident with Delata is people. And it's our investment in people. And like, as you know, within the industry, there are a lot of roles which are, I suppose, entry-level roles. But that also gives us an opportunity as well in terms of providing opportunity for various different groups of people within that, and the kind of USP we have in Delata is, when people are on board, we have a really good learning and development academy. So our whole ethos through the company is, yes, you may be starting as an accommodation assistant, but actually you could be general manager one day, because we provide a lot in terms of investment with development programs at all different levels within that. So that is really kind of one of our USPs.
Right.
And I kind of took that on board from a social impact perspective in terms of opportunity for everyone. So how do we kind of grow this a bit more, And over the last couple of years, and sorry, before I started as well, the culture was there in terms of at a local level, engaging with employment support organizations and in various different partnerships that way. Like, I suppose one of the key things, and I will go into the Down syndrome one now in a second, but one of the key, I suppose, takeaways that we have from that is, we have had experiences where, there's been contact made where, oh, this person knew this person, and it was a person with a disability who wanted work experience, etc. And we have kind of gone down that route. One of the learnings we probably took from that is it is probably better to do it in partnership. So, like, the real thing we want to do is set everything up for success. And I suppose that kind of changed our mind and our policy in terms of going down the partnership route, to kind of really build that success.
Yeah.
So at each of our kind of hotel sites, locally, they would engage with local organizations that support people with disabilities, but also people who may have been homeless previously, migrants, etc. So a wide range of people who are the barriers to employment. And really, I suppose, as I mentioned, like that partnership really is where we see success. So in terms of Down Syndrome Ireland and what we've done there with that partnership is, I suppose, first of all, obviously we had contacts there and relationships there, but we started a conversation with them around, okay, if you are an adult with Down syndrome, what are the barriers there in terms of employment? And then that conversation kind of grew and grew over a period of time to a point where we're like, okay, well, let's start a pilot program here of how that might work. So from our point of view, on a regular kind of day-to-day basis, we'd say if the usual routine in terms of you get a new employee on board, you have your induction, you have your training, you have your skills. We then presented that to Down Syndrome Ireland and said, here's what we would normally do. And then they took a look at it and said, okay, well, that's not going to work for a person with Down syndrome. So what we did then in partnership is work and look at that whole training platform. So we made it more visual based on the advice from Down Syndrome Ireland, and we really tailored the whole package around that. So then we grew the program from there, and we did a pilot last year where we had 5 adults with Down syndrome who took on this training program, first of all, for a number of weeks, and then a work placement program, which was supported by Down Syndrome Ireland for a number of weeks as well. And like we had 5 adults with Down syndrome who took part in it and completed the whole program, and 2 of them were offered permanent employment afterwards. And I suppose the reason why the other 3 weren't is because they decided themselves that this industry wasn't for them, but they took a huge amount out of that. And like us all in our career journey, we've probably tried different things, and it's only by trying different things we actually know where you really want to go. But the big issue for a lot of people with disabilities is they don't even get those opportunities to try those things. So for us, it was a real, I suppose, success out of it. But the kind of key takeaways that we really learned with it is we have to work in partnership here. So, you can, in terms of that investment and that intention from a company, that needs to be really important. So you can say, oh, yes, we want to work with a disability organization, but is it kind of tick the box and it's very superficial and we did that? Or are you looking at real success here?
Yeah,
so
there's definitely an element of trial and error in this as well. And what I can really, what I'm taking from you, Shane, is this partnership is really helpful in helping you structure how exactly you onboard, manage, and support colleagues with Down syndrome. In particular, in this case, I interestingly have a full-time employee on my team, Sarah, who is also has Down syndrome and is I would say, the shining light of the team, and does a whole lot, and recognize that sometimes you need support in understanding how best to structure work and workloads. I just would also like to maybe brief the team on just a very notable point the judges made, which is these placements were paid, which interestingly and probably shockingly is not something that is commonplace across these sorts of initiatives. So just again, to recognize that intent from Delata to, establish these as full-time roles.
And that is an important point, I think, Oisin, as well. And from our point of view, like I personally think like the most powerful thing you can do is provide that economic independence for a person, and that's really important. And like one of the participants went through the program had actually been working for another company for a number of years and hadn't been paid. So again, the way that they viewed that placement and was just not right. But from our point of view, we're basically giving people a chance. We're giving people an opportunity. With that includes the economic independence of absolutely being paid. So that's really important to us as well.
Yeah, great. Shane, thank you so much for sharing that update with us. Again, the offer is to those on the call or who dialing in or retrospectively listening back on this to touch base with Shane, should you be particularly interested in learning more about this initiative. To keep us going, and interestingly, this is centered around the theme of partnership. I'd like to introduce Maureen Lynch of Hayes. So Maureen, as a starting point, you might just like to introduce yourself, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. So good morning, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Maureen Lynch. I'm MD with Hayes in Ireland. I'm sitting in the Dublin office today. I'm in my early 50s, blonde hair, and I'm wearing a burgundy top with red-rimmed glasses. And then I've got a background, an office type background with a Hayes logo. Just maybe basic. Yeah, thank you, Oisin.
Yeah, no worries.
Probably the next question before I go on.
Mic. This is, the purpose of this is to share, the reason for being a finalist. And I know in your case, it's a partnership with Paralympics Ireland. Mm-hmm. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that, kind of maybe how it originated, and what you've learned from this in particular?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
again, just a little bit of background, just in case you're not familiar with Hayes as an organization. So we're a global talent solutions company. So essentially we work with people every day, and people are at the heart of our business. That's externally in what we do, but also very much internally here at Hayes, because our firm belief, if we don't have people, we don't have a business. So they're the foundation of all our key strategic objectives and what we do on a day-to-day basis. So on that, I suppose, as you said earlier, Oisin, equity, diversity and inclusion is really, really important to us, and that we are very much a business that is committed to equity, diversity and inclusion in all its framework. But again, and we also believe, because of the work that we do, we have an opportunity to be a voice externally, because of we're constantly dealing with in the world of talent. But within that, we have a number of objectives, and I suppose a number of years ago, well, two years ago to be exact, we were reviewing where we were with our strategic objectives in relation to ED&I. And I suppose in particular, we were making really good inroads within what we were doing around gender, and what we were doing around minority grouping and LGBTQ in relation to Pride. However, the one area that we felt we weren't making an impact on was disability, and we have an objective to hit 10% of our employees in Ireland would identify as having a disability. And at the time we were at 2%. And for us, we were saying, okay, is that where we want to be? Are we going to do something? How we needed to challenge ourselves on that number, because it isn't reflective of the community that we serve or that we live in. So we started looking at ourselves internally, because again, internally you're saying, is that actually 2%, or is there, do people actually feel comfortable to reveal, through our diversity data? So we felt that potentially there was an element of that as well. So not alone did we have to work on us as being an employer of choice externally, so how were we reflecting out to the world of work when we were recruiting, but also what was happening internally around the conversation to create psychological safety when it comes to sharing data around whether, because visibly we couldn't see it, but we felt maybe invisibly, yes, there was a community there that potentially weren't revealing. So we started, coincidentally, the universe, at the time, Paralympics came into our frame, and a conversation started with Paralympics Ireland. They were looking for a partner around talent recruitment in the lead up to Paris 2024, which is here, and then onwards to LA 28. So we sat down with them, and it was very much, again, Shane, you spoke about a partnership. We listened to each other. We were very honest about, look, this is where we are, folks. We are not a shining light in this area. But they were very saying, like, where we could see we can help you when it comes to talent, but it's going to be, hopefully we're hoping for a semiotic in that sense. We're going to learn a lot.
There's alignment in values for sure. You feel it quickly.
Yeah, so we sat down. So the agreement we agreed, and it was threefold. So one, around the talent. So we were supporting, they were looking to make some very strategic hires into the build up in the lead up to Paris 2024. So we have supported them to date pro bono for 12 strategic hires into their teams. And then the second part was that we are and will, and it's going to be, I suppose, more pronounced when it comes to post-Paralympics, but supporting the athletes in the transition from professional sports into the world of work. And Stephen McNamara, their CEO, is very passionate about this, because he knows there's an end when it comes to, sport comes an end. So what is the future thereafter? And then the third part is us, in partnership with Paralympics Ireland, being a voice when it comes to disability and raising awareness externally in relation to disability, and breaking down the barriers, in particular, again, around the world of work. Because we do know, people with a disability, who have a disability, are underrepresented when it comes to the world of work. So, as I said, in relation to the hiring, successfully hiring, and I suppose what I want to say about that, which was again about us raising the conversation internally. We were asking people to volunteer their time to support Paralympics with the hiring, with their hiring, and we reached out to the business, and we were just blown away about the number of people who put up their hands and saying, I want to be part of this. Okay. And we actually had a waiting list of people who wanted to volunteer. And I suppose that was fantastic, but it also now Paralympics and this relationship is part of our conversation on a daily basis. It's part of our leadership updates. It's part of our town halls. So now there's an ongoing conversation, and there has been. As I said, then the second part, we have been doing work with them around talent and the world of work. But as I said, that's going to come into its own, and we're creating a skills program post Paralympics to support that transition. So that'll come into its own, September. And then the third part is the voice, again, is evolving, but we have already, we've worked with them on research, which we've published. Our D&I report that we do annually, they're contributors to it again, and Stephen would use it from the point of view of raising the conversation in his own world as well. So we're doing a lot of research and joint that we're sharing externally with our customers, but also again internally. And I suppose what we're delighted to say in our most recent, is this working, is this not working? But I suppose the diversity data is telling us something, and potentially we've also looked at our hiring, but our 2% has now gone up to 6.6%. So within the period of time, of course, as I said, our goal is 10, our objective, but then we'll move on from there as well. So I suppose that is the one thing.
You're trending very nicely, Maureen. It's really interesting that the first, two finalists, and we've spoken today, really recognize the value of a partnership with an expert as well. And then obviously it becomes a mutually beneficial discussion. And it seems like, these partnerships have informed parts of your culture in the organizations now that say, this is who we are, this is how we talk about ourselves. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, Maureen. The theme and the carry forward I take here is that access to work is the biggest challenge we're experiencing for those with disabilities, which leads us nicely to our next speaker, which is Richard Winters from Bank of Ireland. Richard, thank you very much for joining us today. Before I ask you to self-describe, I might just very briefly make the connect in, which is, the reason for Bank of Ireland in particular being asked to speak on this forum is to share some insights in terms of your inclusive recruitment practices. But as a starting point, Richard, you might just tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks so much, Oisin. My name is Richard Winters. I work in inclusion and diversity in Bank of Ireland. To self-describe, I'm a white Irish male in my 20s. My pronouns are he, him. I have brown hair and a moustache, and I'm wearing glasses with a green frame. And sorry, I have a blue Bank of Ireland backdrop behind me.
Perfect. Richard, thanks so much. As I mentioned earlier, and I think Bank of Ireland have featured on this forum maybe last year with us, there's great level of advancement in terms of internal processes, particularly with regards to recruitment and recruitment practices, which I know are very frequently reviewed, improved, changed as they should be. I know in particular that Bank of Ireland is the first PLC to gain the Business and Disability Forum accreditation. I was hoping today you might just tell us a little bit about what that is, but in particular, tell us a little bit about this term Disability Smart. I know it's a key area of focus for you as an organization to ensure that managers in particular are disability smart. So could you tell us a little bit about the accreditation, and then of course what that means to you in Bank of Ireland?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Business Disability Forum are a leading UK membership organisation in all about disability inclusion. So we started our partnership with them in 2017, because obviously in order to be disability smart, we need to be partners with companies who kind of can provide us with best practice guidance in the accessibility space. Their accreditation is it would be similar to investors in diversity kind of survey with, I think there's 150 or so questions and all kind of matrices and different parts, which is rated, and we're very proud to have been the first Irish listed PLC to gain their accreditation for commitment to disability inclusion. We're currently working on, they have a kind of a similar system where there's kind of a bronze, silver, gold. So we're currently working on achieving the next level. But as part of the partnership, they provide us with lots of frameworks and tools to become disability smart, which is kind of lots of resources and guidance. They provide us with an advisory service as well if we have any queries. And there's self-assessment tools as well for kind of measuring and benchmarking our performance. So basically, being disability smart to us means being knowledgeable, understanding, and proactive in creating environments, policies, and practices that are inclusive for people with disabilities, be they visible or invisible. And a huge part of that is obviously having the voice of the colleague as centre to that. Means also ensuring that people managers and colleagues have sufficient training in ensuring that all colleagues have the right supports in order to thrive at work. We've also, in the last 18 months or so, partnered with another neurodiversity specialist, AON. And next month we'll be launching our new neurodiversity strategy, which we've been working on them with. The aim of the strategy is to improve all aspects of the workplace experience for colleagues who are neurodivergent, colleagues who champion neurodivergency, and colleagues who support other people who are neurodivergent. And kind of parts of that will be ensuring that the recruitment and onboarding processes are suitable for the needs of current and future neurodivergent colleagues. As part of our partnership with AON, we have a focus group of about 40 or 50 colleagues who they're anonymous to us, but have identified themselves to AON through a survey. And so they're working with AON to kind of every decision that's been made along the way, their voice is in that. So every piece that needs to be reviewed is reviewed by them before kind of proceeding on to the next step.
Yeah. Brilliant, Richard. This is a really nice summary, and I think, you know, if we take a step out of this forum, it's all about our learning. And certainly for me, the term disability smart was new. You know, are you considering any formalized training or recognition of those who are classified as disability smart?
Yeah. So as part of this partnership, AON has provided us with a lot of resources and kind of connections with other places. So we're going to have all colleague training, which is kind of more educational pieces, and then kind of bespoke people manager training for those kind of, for people managers and people in kind of front facing roles, so that they can kind of support neurodivergent colleagues and customers as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Richard, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I'm always impressed by the advances in Bank of Ireland, and again, not surprised to see Bank of Ireland feature as a finalist in today's shortlist whatsoever. So thanks for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Great. I might move on, and we have Natalie Keogh from Allianz joining us here today. Natalie, thanks a million for that. you might just introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind for a moment.
Of course. It's been an absolute pleasure to be invited along today, and at the evening, the awards ceremony there a number of weeks ago. It was really inspiring, and I have to say, absolutely humbled to be considered along with the amazing finalists and all the other organisations. My name is Natalie. I'm a white female. I'm in my early to mid 40s with long brown hair. Today I'm wearing a green top and I am sitting in my kitchen. So it's with a blue background there. I'm hoping my dog will be behaved as she sits staring out the window.
Yeah. Natalie,
so
I
thank
was
you.
thinking, sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Millie, Natalie. I was also thinking, we all have to disclose our age range here, which was not something I think any of us signed up for yesterday. So feel free to not do that if you don't want to. We're all disclosing so much. But Natalie, great to see you again on this. I know you work with Allianz, who are a huge global firm, and we've heard today around the benefits and the advances that we're all taking by virtue of partnerships with different organizations, and even different types of collaborative arrangements with firms. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the recent collaborations or partnerships you've had in Allianz, and how they're helping you advance your ED&I activity, initiatives, and strategy?
Of course. It has been a wonderful journey, I have to say. And just like some of the other panelists there this morning, we wouldn't be where we are today without the partnerships. They have been a tremendous support for us. So some of the partnerships were actually also a sponsor of the Paralympics Ireland, and we partner with As I Am and also Ahead. So I might just talk about Ahead first in this instance.
Yeah, great.
So Ahead help people with learning difficulties and all other disabilities, visible and invisible, to gain, first of all, education and then employment as well. So there's several aspects. So we are now in our 4th year with Ahead, and we are part of their Willing Able mentoring program. So as I said, it's into our 4th year. The very first year, we were absolute novices. And the more I learn about this space, the more I realize what I don't know and what we don't know as an organization. And I think it's key to just understand that, and that's okay. It's okay to not know. And these partnerships are the bedrock for us. So the likes of Caroline and Jade in As I Am in Ahead have been tremendous support to us. So we started out in 2020 with taking in a placement of 3 graduates. So it's between 6 to 9 months. And what we realized is there's a lot of good intentions. Our people managers want to do the right thing. There's just a nervousness. So there was a nervousness of saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing or leaving us exposed or, creating a bad experience for the graduate. They wanted to do it, but they just didn't know how. So through the partnership, we've learned again what works, what doesn't work. And it has been amazing to see us now in our 4th year. Every year, I think there was a 200% uptake. So we went from asking managers and coaching them about how to be disability confident, is what I would say.
Yeah.
You're not always going to say the right thing.
Yeah.
You're not always going to do the right thing. But I think if it's good intention and you're learning from your mistakes, that's key. Ahead have been brilliant. They really mentor the students, and they work with our internal mentors to give them that confidence. And every new graduate that comes in, we are learning about that disability. Mm-hmm. So when we make accommodations for one person, we're seeing that these accommodations actually benefit a whole range of people and communities. Yeah. So I think it's key to look at the person and talk to the person and understand the person. We all have accommodations and resources that we require. Some people just require something slightly different or something more. And I think that's the key. It's the understanding.
Yeah, it's that theme that's emerging, which is whether you're disability smart, disability confident, it's that unknown and that fear potentially of offending someone or doing something incorrect. And I think that's really where the value of the partnership comes in, because in my experience, it's shown me stop being so sensitive about that. Let's move on, you know. Remember, these are people who you provide feedback to in a very similar way to others. You just maybe need to have some nuances to how you operate for those. So thanks, Natalie, for that. I know you've also mentioned you had a partnership with As I Am. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I can, of course. Sorry, we're in our second year now with our partnership with As I Am. And again, like Ahead, they have been a tremendous support. Especially, I would like to acknowledge Debbie Merrigan as well. She has been wonderful, and she got us signed up to the As I Am Communities in Practice.
Yeah.
And that is like-minded communities and organizations that are working together to make their organization a better place, and also then in the wider social aspect as well. So it's really important. Some of the work that we've undertaken in the last year, we're looking to become a neurodiverse a friendly employer, obviously. So the first aspect, again, was about building that confidence and training. Training is key. It's never going to be anything different. Yeah. Training and understanding. So we have trained all of our people managers. And then we also have done a wider awareness training with our employees. The next step was towards the very end of last year, and we're working through, was our sensory audit of our workplace. So again, As I Am have just been a fantastic support. And what you think you know, you don't know. So again, it wasn't just till you were physically walking through the building, you can read all the information you can, but until you're walking through your actual workplace, which you think has been smart designed and disability accessible in all the right ways, there are just a myriad of things. So it's from maps to lighting to smells, everything. So it has been a real eye opener, and it's just been fantastic. I have to say.
You don't know what you don't know is probably a strong takeaway. Natalie, maybe one final question for me, and again, sorry, it's probably off the cuff, but I'm wondering how routinely you in Allianz look at new partnerships. Is this something that you're always exploring? Is whether there's a benefit to a partnership or a collaboration with an organization that could help and support your objectives?
There is, of course, and it's been through these communities that you learn about their organizations. Yeah. So we have a very well established, and that's what it's great. The Ahead partnership now in the 4th year. I won't say it's running itself, because there's still a lot of work that goes into it, but it's part of our mainstream student and apprentice onboarding and part of our graduate program. Yeah. Like that with As I Am, we're getting into a kind of a routine with them now, that this is what we're going to do. It's going to be part of it. So we're continuously looking to see it, but it's about meaningful partnerships. It's what we can bring to them and what they can bring to us. And it's like either dealing with these partnerships or being on calls like this and learning from the community that what's right for one, maybe we could take a step into that and form that meaningful partnership that's going to really make a difference.
Yeah. Perfect, Natalie. Thanks so much for sharing those insights with us. I look forward to hearing about what's next in Allianz, in particular with the next iteration of partnerships and collaborations that you have. So thank you. Thank you. We've got to the point in today's discussion where we can do a bit of a drum roll. And I know we celebrated on the night, but just to share our last finalist today, who is actually our winner, which is the House of Oireachtas Service. And representing those today is Roisin Deary. So Roisin, you're very welcome. And again, congratulations to you and the extended team on this fantastic recognition. Would you like to introduce yourself to start?
Thank you, Oisin, and good morning, everyone. Just to start, my name is Roisin Deary, and I work and lead out on the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion team in the Houses of the Oireachtas. So I'm a white female in my early 40s with dark brown curly hair. I'm sitting in my office here today. I'm wearing a coloured dress and a dark green jacket. So it's great to be here with everybody.
Brilliant. Roisin, thank you so much for joining us. I thought if we'll just take a moment, I'd just like to reflect on some of the judges' comments that were made in relation to the application made, and then of course the winning submission. But with a target of 6% disability inclusion by 2025 fast approaching, Houses of the Oireachtas Service is at the heart of the public sector reform. By partnering with Care and Walk, they have set ambitious, well-informed and well-supported targets to create sustainable job opportunities for those with intellectual disabilities. It said you've taken on a flexible approach to getting departments involved, letting them be training centres if they're not ready to be recruitment centres. This is a fantastic accolade, Roisin, and I know, having listened to some of the fantastic panelists, there's a reason for which you have been winning in this category. Would you mind telling us a little bit about the programme with a particular focus on what you're most proud of?
Thank you, Oisin. Yes, and just to say, listening to all the other finalists, and it's lovely to hear everyone's story, because you don't always hear that on awards nights or shortlisting. And we're all trying to do the same thing. I think that's the message I certainly have seen this morning or heard from all the other groups. We're all running similar models, and the big thing that's come out of it again, and that was part of it for us, was the partnership approach. And again, just going back on the points of, you don't know what you don't know, but there was always a willingness to do something, but just people didn't know what to do. So we needed the experts. So I suppose just in terms of where the Oireachtas Work Learning Programme came from, the commission here in the Oireachtas, which oversees all of the parliamentary community, we had a strategic goal in 2018, before my time here, I might say, that was to have an open parliament. And one of the things that they noticed was, from a recruitment perspective, we weren't generating, positions for people with disability, but not necessarily knowing why we weren't. So they took a look at it, and particularly they were looking at people with an intellectual disability, because at the time, there was about 36% of the population with disabilities in employment, compared to 72% of the general population of the same age group, the working age group. But people with intellectual disability and autism, it's much lower, the percentages, when you get there. So at the time, the AHEAD program would have been working as well. So they were looking for something novel and new, and we're looking at the comprehensive employment strategy at the same time. So the head of HR at the time just went out and looked at a couple of models, and again, through a partnership approach, identified care in the Kildare, Laois, Wicklow area, and walk in the wider Dublin area to disability service providers. So they decided to run a pilot. The original idea was a training program. Let's have the House of the Oireachtas as a training site. People can have clerical officer experience, service officer experience, and we had our own restaurant. So we'd have catering assistant experience. And then, along with that, based on the programmes Care and Walk were already running in 2 hospitals in Tala and Naas, we decided to build in a QQI level 3 programme, and we worked on work experience and career preparation. So it really started as a training programme. We'll provide a base. People can then have this on their CV. It was a pilot. Within about 6 months, everyone said, this is bigger than a traineeship. Let's bring this forward. So at the time then, the Oireachtas approached the Department of Public Expenditure, NDP, Delivery and Reform, and the Public Appointment Service, and said, what can we do together to make this something bigger? So that's what we've been doing since. So now we've 2 aspects to the programme. It's a training programme, starts September to June every year with 3 work experience placements, and then it's turned into a graduate programme. So I suppose, what's it doing? It's driving systems change in the civil service, and I think that's the one thing that we will take away from it. The willingness of people to get involved and to ask questions. So I suppose since 2018, we've had 4 programs, because COVID expanded one of our programs, and I can talk about that in a second. But we now have, the House of the Oireachtas was the training site. Now we've 2 additional training sites in the form of the Department of Tourism and Culture. It is a very long title. I know they'll forgive me for not saying it all. And the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. So there's now 3 placement sites, and the Department of Finance came on board this year because I suppose we've employed 6 graduates ourselves in the Oireachtas. So we're losing training places all the time. So you need more departments to come on board. The graduate programme as well has expanded. We're now with ourselves as well, 11 government departments. So in a very small space of time, with 17 graduates employed in these. So I suppose just, people like the numbers. We've 30 graduates since 2019. We've 8 trainees this year. We usually have 10, so we offer 10. The reason for 10 is you're going to bottleneck at some point, and we want to give people the right experience, and we want to get jobs in. We've held 3 confined recruitment competitions. So it was all based around the comprehensive employment strategy, which was internships and new recruitment avenues, and then the provision of special competitions. So that's what we've organised it through. The competitions are run exactly like all the other competitions in the civil service. There's one aspect, which is the reasonable accommodation piece. Psychometric testing is taken out of the process for this group.
Okay.
That's it. The rest of them go through a competitive interview process based on the competencies of the service officer and clerical officer role. I suppose what do we say? It really is about providing people with economic independence, and I think Shane said that from the outset. We do always say, what are we proud of? All of the trainees come in here as trainees. They leave as graduates and our friends and our colleagues, and we know, even though they've gone to wider departments, they still come back to us. We still come back, deal with them. We've set up an employing department network, so all the line managers and the HR managers in the employing departments can come. We've had the most experience of it, so I chair it, and we can share ideas if there's any issues, shared learning, training that people are going on, we do it. And the same then with the graduate network. They come back 4 times a year into the Oireachtas. We bring them all together so that they have that peer-to-peer learning. And one of the new things we started only last week was through the employing departments and Care and Walk, and everything is just complete collaboration. It's complete discussion. It's thinking through, it's the graduates are very much involved. I suppose there's language in the workplace that you have to get used to in terms of structures of emails, structures of documents and things like that. And as the graduates were going through their first year, some of the employing departments through that forum were coming up saying, could we get a bit of support? So again, the City of Dublin Education Training Board with Care and Walk and the employing departments, we've put a package together, and 6 of the graduates started that program last Monday. So it's constant improvement. It's not just we train you, out you go. Care and Walk are there for the lifetime of the person being in employment, because they provide a job coach. So the job coach comes in, breaks down the tasks if required for the graduate to work. And then once that happens, they can take a step back. They're there to support the manager. And if tasks change or there's any issues, they can come in again. They can sit in on probation, PMDS. I suppose if I could just highlight the partners in the programme in terms of employing departments, because I think they deserve a mention. So obviously ourselves, the Public Appointments Service, the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment, the National Shared Services Office, the Office of Government Procurement, Social Protection, Revenue, Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media. Got that one out. Foreign Affairs.
A full comprehensive list of departments.
Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. So it's really been it probably has exceeded all our expectations in terms of its growth, and it's still growing. But I suppose for us, and the award and any previous, I suppose, promotion that we've had, it's really for people with intellectual disabilities and disabilities, in Ireland, to say the civil service is an employer of choice. Come talk to us. We have avenues for them to explore.
Yeah, there's a fantastic element of this, Roshan, as you speak, that I'm thinking about, which is, the civil service and public service is at the heart of so many of our towns, cities, communities. As you list out all of those departments, it's very clear that we have much better representation of colleagues and people with intellectual disabilities across those towns and communities. So that in itself was a fantastic success around representation and that access to work. Genuinely blown away by the types of things that are taking place, and I think many others on this call will try to think about how do you apply some of those learnings in the context of smaller organizations. But certainly there's lots of options and things that we could pick up from there, particularly like the training route, which can then turn into a graduate route, because it feels like you get an opportunity to try before you buy. Somewhat similar, Shane, to what you set out in your experience in the latter group, which was, we'll try it out, and if this is mutually beneficial and you think this works for you, then we keep going, and if not, we take stock and do something else. Thank you to everybody who has participated on today's forum. Maybe to just wrap up on a couple of things that I in particular have taken from this. First is great pride on AON's behalf to be affiliated with organizations and people like all of you on the call today. It's really clear that we collectively are advancing the right topics right across the country in really smart ways. The second is the value of partnerships. I'm again kind of taken aback by the number of different types of partnerships we are considering having, and there's certainly some names of partners today: Paralympics Ireland, Down Syndrome Ireland, Ahead, As I Am, many others who I think I would say deserve a call out, and for those who are listening in either now or later, certainly to consider how you might advance your action in your organization through that type of partnership. The terms that are new to me: disability smart, disability confident. I really like them, and I'm sure Team AON are going to hear more about that in the next couple of days. I think they're really smart terms that help capture the genesis of how we want to operate across our organization. So I know there were questions that were going to be put in the chat. As you said earlier, James, we'll endeavour to respond to all of those in due course. But just thank you to everybody for again participating today, for sharing your insights. I really look forward to collaborating with you and hopefully seeing you all before we get to the next set of awards next year, which will probably fly in. I feel like I blink and we're there. They do get bigger and better every year, so let's see what's in stock for us. But James, I'll pass back to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Oisin. Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone. And I suppose just before we wrap up, I want to do a round of thank yous. So today wouldn't be possible without, of course, our award sponsor, Oisin. Thanks for being an amazing host and keeping it within time as well. Thank you so much. Thanks to the award finalists, to the highly commended, of course, to our winner as well, and indeed Vanessa, our ISL interpreter. Also to our tech team behind the scenes and everyone else for joining us today. Just to say, the recording will be available shortly on our events page on our website, and feel free to contact us through the website or register for upcoming webinars and to view other recordings via our events page on www.irishcenterfordiversity.ie. Thanks everyone and have a great day.
Thanks a lot, James.